Hello everyone, Morbidly Deceased here. Welcome to Astroneer. Here's a game I picked up a while back. And by a while back I mean a few days ago. Sorry about that. Anyways, this game, this is instead a highlights reel of what I did, because I wanted to get to the moon by the end of the first episode, but that means editing a lot, and so I recorded well into the night and just didn't want to record audio. So here we have the first part in every game, landing on the planet. Now, this game is in pre-alpha, so there is quite a few glitches. You're about to see one of them. Not here, but see, you use resin, or well, one, you have this little terrain tool, which helps you dig out the land or build up on it, and it's how you basically mine resources. Well, for some reason, for these first couple of minutes, it pretended to work. I don't quite get it. It glitched out for like a minute or so, because I end up wandering off in a different direction, and then suddenly it works. So I don't get it, but yeah, as you can see, it sucks up certain resources, and it doesn't suck up the earth, but it'll suck up plants or resins or compounds or metals or minerals. In this case, this is a pocket of resin, and I'm currently using that, or resin's used to expand the base. Like, so here we go, that little node right there, you can use it to expand out into new platforms, and then 2 more resin will allow you to expand that platform into a much larger platform where you can build other things on top of it, but you'll see what I mean when we get there. So yeah, I'll go over the different buildings later when I actually use them. And then here, so we have a printer, a vehicle bay, a smelter, a research station, which is the first I built. Because what research allows you to do, you see those green and blue things on top of those plants, kind of clinging on? That's a type of research object. And of course the plant tries to crush me, but that's besides the point. So each new research object will give you a new, usually like either a new consumable that you can craft in your backpack, which is what you see right here, or something new you can build with a printer, or a new building much like a research station. So here I'm crafting a solar panel and tethers. That blue line you see, that is an oxygen supply, and the blue bar on top of your backpack is how much oxygen you have. Tethers help you expand out that oxygen supply. You'll also see blue crystals lying around. Those are, I guess, oxygen, I don't know what they are. Crystals, whatever you would want to call it, but that's basically oxygen. You can suck it up and it'll fill up your oxygen bar again, and then after that it'll collect all the excess and convert it into something like what you would see when it gathers on your backpack for resin or compounds or anything like that. So filters are little things you can make with compound that extends your oxygen supply. So that's pretty much what those are. And then here we have me mining this giant pit of compound, not really caring about if I lose it into the pit, and then I accidentally dig underneath myself. And now we've landed in a patch of fuel, which you'll see its use later. But anyways, I try and kill these little gaseous balls, and how you do that is digging out the land from underneath them. But I stayed in the gas too long and got myself killed. And then that body to the right, I think I either fell or suffocated. I can't remember which. So yeah, there's that. Anyways, the only, again, another issue since this game is a pre-alpha, if you put ground up underneath you, you have a tendency to accidentally phase through the floor, which sometimes it's useful because now you know where all the veins of compound resin and rare metals are, but other than that, it's more of a nuisance. And then, there's storms in this game, which you'll see later, so that's what that hole was for, to stockpile everything so it doesn't get blown around out in the open if there's a storm. And then here's another research object I grabbed. Now, the thing that bugs me about this game is the grabbing system. Now, I'm sure it makes a lot more sense on a mouse because it's a lot more maneuverable, but for a console, it just seems like it'd be easier if instead when you grab an object, at least something large, it stays near you rather than going around all over the place, because that's the problem is it'll get like snagged on the geometry of a rock or something, and then your camera will pan out and you won't be able to see anything. The camera system in this game for the console version is a little wonky. I think it's fine in the computer version, I don't know though. Alright, so a truck is like a much larger form of a rover, and I don't think I ever... Well, I did build a rover somewhere in this playthrough, but... a rover is a vehicle... in this case, it's a vehicle you can ride on and get around in. A truck is a larger version of that can carry more supplies and has more power, has more energy. That little yellow bar on your backpack is power. There'll be yellow splotches of like almost crystal looking things. They're not up in spikes, they're just kind of scattered on the walls in bits. That is power. So you use power to power up everything. Your buildings consume power when you use them. Thus, when you make one, you'll see it charging up. That yellow bar running through the beam over there, that's power being transferred over to, in this case, what will be a smelter. And smelters help you take your raw materials and smelt them. Now, this right here was a large tunnel I had found. It goes on a very long way and there's almost nothing in it, just some rocks and then power and oxygen. And since I had actually played this game quite a bit before I decided to record it, again, I bought this, like, I think Christmas. Those large tunnels will have a special research object in them that you won't really find anywhere else. I don't think it's not that it gives you something special, it gives you a random item just like all the other new research objects you find, but it's a rare one and you want to find as many different research objects as possible to research as many different things as possible. And then watch closely to the back of my gun. See the laterite clump that disappeared? That was the second one. The issue this game has is things like to phase through the ground. And then here we have me carrying off another research object. This time I picked it up out of an exploding plant, so though it looks the same as the one that spews gas at you, it actually will give you something different. Assuming I'm remembering all this right? Yes, I am. Okay, good. Also, I don't know what power cells are, I never looked them up, but a fuel condenser is a machine that just uses power to make fuel. So you don't actually need any fuel for the fuel condenser, you can just make your own fuel. So yeah. And here we have me using the smelter to turn laterite into aluminum. You need aluminum to make the vehicle bay, and you need aluminum to make a truck, while you only need compound to make a rover. And then again, you need resin to expand out the base. Sorry if a lot of this video is me mainly just gathering materials and building a base, but that's kind of how this game goes. There's no monsters or anything like that, so you're just fighting the elements, and it's a lot of resource collecting at the beginning, but then it becomes a lot of exploration and just finding new things. So here I'm going to put together the vehicle bay. So again, it takes 2 aluminum. There's other places you can find aluminum, and I'll show you them later in the video. Everything's randomly generated, but the objects are always going to be somewhere, at least. So those laterite can be smelted into aluminum, and then there's malachite, which can be smelted into copper. But you probably won't be seeing the thing with copper for a while. And then, can't remember. Oh, yes. And then I grabbed a couple compounds to make small solar panels. And then I cleared out my resin stash because I was going to expand the base a little bit more, and I was going to expand it near this area where the hole is, so I really did not want to lose anything, because since items just kind of like phasing through the floor, I didn't want them dropping down. Now, as you can see, if you want to make the base even bigger, you have to turn one of the sections that was spring off into 2. You have to just expand it out from there. And I need to check again, but I can't quite figure out how you place another platform without doing that, and that's what kind of bugs me. Once you expand, if you accidentally paint yourself into a corner, then you're screwed, and it just bugs me that you can paint yourself into a corner with the base building system. But I mined out this rock, and then we had this lovely bit of physics messing up on us. It's like it seems more like a hot air balloon. Not hot air. It just seems like a giant balloon. I mined it out because I thought maybe there'd be a research object underneath it. In some cases, there are. So it all just depends. Now, here I'm making the truck. I got all the aluminum. I can't remember how I got the how I got enough, but whatever. And then it needs to charge back up before it does anything else. So you just start off with a base like that, and then here we have one of the rather lovely storms in this game. Some of the storms don't have these rocks, but the ones that do, you want to be really careful, because not only does it blow stuff around, but the rocks hit things and can knock objects around, or if they hit you, they'll kill you, so best to avoid that. And now, the more objects you research, the more structures you can put on your rovers or trucks or shuttles. If you find if you research for a crane, you can put on this giant crane. I can't remember what it does though. I don't think I've ever actually used it successfully, so yeah. And then you can choose to not have anything on the truck for power, but since I figured I'd be going off long distance, I made sure I put solar panels on. So here we have a little crashed shuttle, and that's where you can find some rarer, I don't know, where you can find some more uncommon materials. Like in this case, we have lithium and copper, and that's usually what we have in the small shuttles, is lithium and copper. I haven't seen many others that have a variety. The big shuttles that you can find, however, do have some variety to them. So if you find something like this, then best to drive towards it, because you'll get some rare materials, and you'll also get some research objects from it. Like these two were all just right next to it. And the thing with research objects is, though, once you've already researched, found one type of research object, you can't use it again. So like, say if you take one off of one of those gas plants, if you put another research object into the research center, you won't get a new schematic or anything like that. You'll usually get like either lithium or titanium. So they're rare resources and they're useful, it's just you won't get something new. And then here we have these nodes, and what they do is they have certain materials on them, and they will regrow those materials over the span of a couple days. Usually it gives you about 2 to 3 of one type. And then here we have a large shuttle, crash shuttle. There's also crash satellites, and I've only seen one, and I'm not really sure what you do with those. They're just sort of there. I don't think you can hook anything up to them, so. But these ones carry more resources, and I end up having to juggle around everything I had to do it right. It would have been fine, but then I found another large object, and I didn't have enough room on my truck to carry it. Because I hadn't found the storage system yet. And the storage system allows you to carry like 4 large objects like this, the ones that take up 2 slots that have to be connected together. Because it works perfectly fine on the truck connector itself, but you'll run out of truck connectors. So as you can see, I now have the satellite dishes back on my backpack because I had to rearrange my inventory so that I could fit this thing onto the truck. And then we're back, and I started researching all the objects, so once again, I'll tell you what they are as we go along, assuming I know them. I don't think anything besides the power cells was something I didn't know about. Alright, so habitat, I'm not entirely sure how they worked. I thought it was just something you could plonk down somewhere. It was a new base, but it's kind of looking like it's more just a place to sit out a storm in, but I do not know. So here I'm making, well, not quite yet, but that's a printer, and what a printer does is it makes larger objects, usually better objects than what you can just craft. So you can craft a generator on your backpack, and it's a little machine that takes coal, but you can craft a larger generator in a printer and put it on one of these platforms. Still takes coal, but now it produces a lot more power and lasts a lot longer. And then you have, and then you also have storage panels, which are these platforms that can store 8 items on them, and they connect to slots that only store 2 items. Not indefinitely though. You can't put a storage panel on a storage panel, but you can put a storage panel on like where I put those 2 satellite dishes. You can also build larger satellite dishes. I think I put one on the truck eventually. You can build batteries. Now, a crane, again, I explained it before, I don't know exactly what it does. I don't know if it can actually pick stuff up. I just know that you can put things on it, but I don't know how exactly the crane works. So I might figure that out in the next episode. Alright, and then storage, that research for storage is not the kind of research you print, it's the kind of research the kind of storage that goes on your truck. And then here I'm building batteries, which take 2 lithium, and with a printer they're a lot larger and store a lot more power. One of these batteries, when fully charged, can recharge the entire truck. So take one of those batteries with you if you have a rover, and you'll have 2 full charges. Or 3 if your rover's already fully charged. So they contain a lot of power, and they're good for there's a couple different power systems in this game. You can use solar panels, you can use wind turbines, you can use generators, or you can use just power blocks and use batteries to store them. And the thing about batteries is they're good for like storing power for overnight. That way they'll charge up during the day, and then they'll help you, they'll allow you to use more power at night because they have all that power stored up. I found another shuttle here, and another research object, and then along with titanium, I think it was copper and aluminum, or if it was just 2 copper, but either way I would need the copper for the fuel condenser. So, and then also titanium helps you make these things called tanks, which are pretty much expansions to your oxygen supply. Although at this time I hadn't realized quite yet that if you put your tanks on the side, your main oxygen tank doesn't draw from the secondary tanks if you have your secondary tanks on the side. Or at least it doesn't draw from them first. I don't know. I never got to the point of suffocating where that was an issue. And here we have a shuttle, and I ran off to go take care of something else, and when I looked back, my shuttle was like diagonal for some reason. Yeah. See, I don't know if you saw it out of the corner of the screen, but yeah, then suddenly it went all cockeyed, so that was fun. And here we have the fuel condenser, and yeah, that's all it really does. It just makes fuel. And then I grabbed the rest of the fuel I had stored up, and then I loaded the shuttle. I gathered a ton of resin so I could expand out the base when I got to the moon, because you need resin for expansion. And initially when I first started playing, the first planet I went to was like this really radiated one, and that was a complete mistake. I mean, there was plenty of coal there, so had I built a generator, that would have been fine, but not this time. So this time I go to the moon. It's barren. You have the Terran planet, the barren planet, the arid planet, the radiated planet, and the exotic planet, and the tundra planet. So I hope to be visiting all of those, building a base on each one, and exploring around. And then this series might be short-lived until an update comes out, because again, it's a pre-alpha, and there really isn't. There's a lot to do in the game, but then once you do everything, it's not like you can. Or there's a lot to the game, and it's a lot of the same. And once you pretty much have a base on every planet, and you've run out of things to research, then it's a little pointless after that. But it's still a really fun game. So here I'm just kind of starting out with the base work of the moon base, just trying to get most of the buildings in, and most of the platforms in, to kind of lay out everything I want. Although, of course, once again, this is actually not the first time I've landed right on the edge of a crater, so I have a base that's kind of half in, half out of the crater. It's always a little strange how that ends up happening, but whatever. And then I started finicking trying to line up this segment, because it follows your camera, and so when you want to go in a straight line, it doesn't really want to do that if your camera's not the right angle. See, like, yeah, and once you switch into the selector mode, then it kind of tweaks on you, and yeah. I spent way too much time effing around with this. The best thing to do is kind of stand in front of it, but when you're standing on a cliff, it's not really the smartest thing to do. Because though the fall might not necessarily kill you, because the physics kind of glitch out and you surf down the rock, it's only like a straight fall that'll kill you. Going down a slope causes your guy to kind of surf around, and sometimes it glitches out and you just keep surfing. But a fall down a crater that big would mean you might not be able to get up to your oxygen supply in time, and then you just suffocate and have to go get your body. Good news is, whatever you were in, if you were in a shuttle last, you go back to that shuttle. You don't like respawn back on the home world. That would be a pain. But if you're on the home world, you can respawn in a shuttle or respawn in the habitat you started out in, but I don't think you can respawn in another type of vehicle except for maybe a spaceship. And then I did a brief count as to just everything I need in order to basically what resources do I need to complete the base. How much copper, how much aluminum, compound, resin. Turns out I needed 9 resin to finish all the platforms, 4 compound for the smelter and the research station, 4 copper for the fuel condenser and the printer, and 2 aluminum for the vehicle bay. And so we ended up leaving the moon once again to head back to the planet and pick up all those resources. I ended up cutting the recording as soon as I landed, just because I knew it was going to take a while to get everything, and then immediately started recording again once I was about to take off and head back to Earth, or to the moon. The cool thing about this game, though, is with everything being randomly generated, each planet is actually different from the last. The last moon I was on was, for one, a different color, but that's not what was important. What was important was it had a very little compound, a lot of copper, and a lot of research objects. Well, I can't. The one before that was a lot more barren, with very little resources that weren't. With very little resources that weren't underground. And then, it looks like the Astroneer crew is a little bit better at fixing some of their bugs. Because usually what happens is if you leave a vehicle or if you have a rover or a truck or anything like that lying around, it has a tendency to glitch into the ground. I think that's what happened to my rover, but in this case the truck was kind of stuck halfway through. It's also the same reason why I didn't leave any objects on the ground this time, is because when you travel to a planet and then come back, any objects you have on the ground, they don't disappear. It's not like, oh, they're gone now. No, they glitch out, phase through the ground until they hit the next open pocket. So if you want to go get them back, you're going to have to dig down into a cave system, and that's not the most enjoyable thing in the world. So here we have me, again, taking off, and going to the moon. Now, to let everyone know, for the next episode, my goal when on the moon is to ultimately get a research object to find a spaceship blueprint, because the spaceship blueprint allows you to build a much larger shuttle. And then these last couple minutes were just me building the base. So, yeah, I think I've explained all the buildings and what they do, so let's just watch. So there we have the fuel condenser, which will be useful for hopefully whenever I find the spaceship blueprint. Then we have a printer to build the larger solar panels and storage sections. And I briefly reshuffled my inventory just to make everything easier to access for putting the machines together. And then next up we have the research station, which I've already explained what that does. Then next up I put in a smelter. And then last but not least I put in the vehicle assembly, and once again I accidentally screwed up where I placed everything. This is what happens when you don't make everything kind of just out of the way, because then the vehicle bay started to kind of, well, it already was kind of encroaching on where the smelter was. So yeah, that's always fun. Yeah, so here is the moon base, everyone. I think that was a pretty successful first episode. Yeah, so let me know in the comments what you think of this game, if you want me to continue the series, anything like that. Basically, whichever series gets the most views, I'm probably going to get started on first. And then also, I briefly popped over to get a research object, just to see what it would get me, and in this case, it got me a trade platform, which of course, now I had accidentally once again sealed off everything in my base. No wait, this one didn't give me the trade platform, I'm dumb. This one gave me titanium, which is useful though in its own right, because you can build tanks with that. And as you can see, it's filling with oxygen. So it's, instead of getting the oxygen pellets, you just have tanks. And then I grabbed another research object, and this one gave me the trade platform. If I could actually place it on the goddamn machine. And the trade platform is pretty much a little shuttle system. It's another building, but it's a little shuttle system where you can put objects on it, and it'll trade you certain resources. For those resources, you can pick which resources you want, and then I'll tell you this is how many you're going to get for what you gave it. And so we hop back in the shuttle one last time, just to get a nice kind of view of our new little moon base. So that's all for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this first episode of Astroneer. Hoping for quite a few more. Happy New Year, everyone, and like, comment, subscribe, do whatever the hell you want. I'll see you guys later.